Greetings, fellow Whovians. I have returned. Alright, so let's talk about a common thing that is, well, common in fiction. And that's, of course, the long recurring adversary. Every hero, no matter who they are, always needs one. And there are a lot of examples for that. Sherlock Holmes has Moriarty, Thor has Loki, Batman has the Joker, Superman has Lex Luthor, Spider-Man has the Green Goblin, etc., etc., etc. But if there's one recurring adversary that the Doctor always has, no matter how many times he's regenerated, who is it? Well, one could argue that it would be the Master, but sadly that wasn't a thing, and sadly the Master actually didn't appear until John Pertwee's second season, so it's not that. One would probably think it would be the Cybermen, right? Well, no. See, the Cybermen were actually introduced in Hartnell's last story, The 10th Planet. And yes, Cybermen would appear from time to time, but like I said, they weren't introduced until Hartnell's final story, so there's that. So, that leaves the question, who or what is the Doctor's most recurring adversary? Who has faced up against the Doctor so many times that, quite frankly, it's kind of commonplace for a Doctor to go up against this thing every era? Well, the answer to that is the Daleks. Now, the Daleks are probably the one thing most closely associated with Doctor Who, aside from the Doctor himself. And while the Daleks in the modern show have had some, well, not so great appearances, particularly in Series 3, which I'll get to eventually, let's just say that the first appearance of the Daleks in the classic era of Doctor Who would be memorable. So memorable that the Daleks would become extremely huge and popular. And like I said, they would face off against pretty much every single incarnation of the Doctor. Well, except for the 8th Doctor, but they were mentioned in the TV movies, so there's that. So, with that being said, let's delve right into the first appearance of the Daleks with the Daleks. But before we get to the main plot of the episode, let's take a look at the production history of this episode. Script editor David Whitaker commissioned a 6-part serial from comedy writer Terry Nation after being impressed by his work in the science fiction series Out of This World. This was formally commissioned under the title The Mutants on July 31st and was originally intended to air fourth in the series lineup after Marco Polo. The designer originally assigned to this serial was Ridley Scott, later famed film director. However, a problem with Scott's schedule meant that he was replaced by Raymond Cusick, who was thus given the task of realizing the Dalek creatures. Cusick based the design of the Daleks on a man sitting in a chair. Classic. The Daleks proved to be very popular, but Cusick received little money for merchandise sold with his design. Nation was claimed that he came up with the name Dalek after seeing a set of encyclopedias with volume 1 spanning the section of the bed from Dal to Lek. However, he later admitted that this was simply a good story for the sake of the press, and that in fact he just made up the name. The cliffhanger to the first episode, in which Barbara is confronted by Dalek's sucker arm, was filmed with floor manager Michael Ferguson holding the arm, rather than being attached to a full Dalek body. And of course, well, there were some alternative titles to the story, which I'll get into right now. During production, the overall story went through a number of working titles such as The Survivors and Beyond the Sun, before settling down as The Mutants. This title was later used in most BBC paperwork, using titles for over a decade. In 1972, a later Doctor Who story called The Mutants was produced, also directed by Christopher Barry. To avoid confusion, two titles have emerged as alternatives. The Dead Planet came into use after the 1973 Radio Times 10th Anniversary Doctor Who special referred to all the early stories by the title of the first episodes. The Dead Planet was used in many licensed guides and magazines up until 1980, when it was displaced by the Daleks, a title deriving from stories, book, and film adaptations, and with no basis in contemporary usage. This title largely stuck and was used for the script book published by Titan Books in 1989, as well as the VHS and DVD releases. However, some reference guides still refer to the serial as The Mutants. According to the text commentary on the 2006 DVD release, the first episode, The Dead Planet, was recorded twice. This fact is further confirmed in the 2010 book, Wiped, Doctor Who's Missing Episodes, which was written by Doctor expert Richard Molesworth. The first version was affected by technical fault that captured backstage voices. The remount was done 2 weeks before it was broadcast, and Sue's outfit was changed to the second version. The only surviving footage of the first version is the recap at the start of the second episode, The Survivors, showing Barbara menaced by a Dalek. The corresponding scene at the end of Dead Planet was recreated when the episode was remounted. The second episode, The Survivors, was taped on November 22, 1963. Months before taping started, the cast and crew learned of the assassination of John F. Kennedy, but decided to continue with the recording. Only 4 Dalek props were available for filming. Many editing shots were used to make it look like there are more, but sometimes this was not possible. Inflatable Daleks had to be used for Dalek crowd scene. Some could easily be distinguished as a fake due to their squashed appearance. The usage of only four Dalek made the final battle very disappointing for fans. Many commented it was a very limp affair, and it was over in a flash. Also, there was no stunt Dalek for this episode. Due to this, a fake Dalek head was attached to a Dalek's casing for filming the scene in The Escape, where 3 Daleks destroy the Dalek Ian, Barbara, Susan, Doctor used to escape. Alright, now, that being said, let's dive right into the episode itself. Here we go. Okay. This story introduces 2 plot lines in Doctor Who, that of the TARDIS's navigational circuits malfunctioning, and that of the supposed destruction of the Dalek race. In this case, instead of bringing its crew back to Earth, the TARDIS lands in a petrified jungle, and the Doctor has to try to fix their position by taking a reading of the stars. The Doctor insists they explore a futuristic city they spot beyond the forest, but Ian Chesterton and Barbara Wright are not convinced. In the forest, someone touches Susan's shoulder. However, the Doctor doesn't believe her. Later, a box of files is found outside the TARDIS. The Doctor claims the fluid link of the TARDIS is running low on mercury, a ruse he later admits to, forcing the crew to travel to the city in search of more mercury. Inside the Dalek city, Barbara becomes separated from her colleagues, and is, in the iconic first episode cliffhanger, threatened by an unseen metal arm, the first appearance of a Dalek. Before long, the entire crew is captured by the Daleks. Susan's eventually sent to retrieve anti-radiation drugs from the TARDIS, the Doctor realizing this is what the box contained. Susan encounters a second species, the Thals, who used to be at war with the Daleks. The Thal who left the drug reveals he encountered her in the forest. Susan attempts to broker peace between the 2 groups, and all attempts to work. The Daleks eventually betray the Thals, opening fire on them at what was supposed to be a peaceful exchange of food. Daleks try using the anti-radiation drugs, but discover they are fatal to Daleks. Decide to bombard the atmosphere with more radiation. In the ensuing chaos, the Doctor and his companions escape with the Thals and learn their version of the history of their planet. They also learn that the Thals are about pacifists. They are unable to leave Skara, however, as the fluid link has been taken by the Daleks. To save them from the Daleks, the TARDIS crew convinces the Thals of the importance of aggression and warfare, and manage to lead the Thals in a successful attack against the Daleks. At the end, it is believed that the Dalek race has been destroyed when the power supply is knocked out. TARDIS crew leaves Skara, but an explosion in TARDIS knocks them out. Wow, that was one big episode, huh? Well, before I close out, let's do what I always do, and talk about continuity. The serial marks the first appearance of TARDIS' food machine. The mercury-filled fluid links in TARDIS console feature again in subsequent stories, including Thule in Space, written by Dalek script editor David Whittaker. Anti-radiation drugs are shown to be required to survive on the surface of Skara in this serial, plot point repeated in Destiny of the Daleks when the Doctor next returns chronologically to the post-war planet. This story marks the first appearance of the Daleks. The famous Dalek catchphrase, "Exterminate," is used in the 4th episode of the story as the Doctor and his companions have escaped via a lift. One Dalek orders the other, "Make no attempt to capture them. They are to be exterminated. You understand? Exterminated." Although many parts of the Dalek mythos were established here, several key elements of the continuity were retroactively changed over the years. The most notable change regarded the nature of the war with the Thals and the transformation into the Daleks. In this story, the Daleks mutated as a direct result of the war, and their previous species were called the Dals. In the later genesis of the Daleks, their mutation was accelerated but not directly caused by the machinations of Davros. Their previous species was the Khalids, and the mutation marked the end of the war with the Thals. This story was also the only instance in which the Daleks' dependence for motive power outside of electricity from the floors of their city was a factor. In their next appearance, the Dalek invasion of Earth, they had found a way around this restriction. They supported small satellite-type dishes to receive power transmissions, and subsequently they incorporated power pen slides around the midsection, though an affinity for static was occasionally referenced to future serials, such as The Power of the Daleks, and the plot Death to the Daleks required an explanation that for basic movement they now utilized telekinesis. Similarly, the story states that the Daleks require radiation in order to live at all, leading them to try to further eradicate Skaro. Their stories, including the sequel, show them operating without heavy background radiation. Thals feature again in Planet of Daleks and Genesis of Daleks. In Destiny of the Daleks, they appear to have abandoned Skaro. Well, that's the Daleks for you. A well-known, very classic Doctor Who story. A story that introduced us to probably the only Doctor Who race, creature, monster, whatever, that the Doctor will continue to fight against during all of his regenerations. Again, except for the Doctor number 8, but that's a different story. So, what did I think about this episode? Well, quite frankly, I like it. I've only seen it once before, and I was hooked. Of course, I've been a bit fan of the Daleks before then, so this story was really good, and it definitely held up. So, that being said, I give Doctor Who, the Daleks, 5 out of 5 sonic screwdrivers. Well, join me next time as we get to see more of the Doctor's companions having fun, all the while just being in the TARDIS, so yay! Well, anyway, until next time, this is the Whovian Queen saying, "Oh my giddy aunt, when I say run, run! I've reversed the polarity of neutron flow. Would you like a jelly, baby? Fantastic! Allons-y! Geronimo!" Bow ties are cool, vests are cool, and Stetsons are cool.